And this embarrassing episode is just the beginning of a sequence of embarrassing events that will occur as the Israelites move from Egypt towards the land that's been promised to them. Most of these episodes will occur in the book of Numbers, and they involve the rebellion of the people in some way, generally God's fury in reaction to that rebellion, Moses' intervention, usually on behalf of the people, and God's appeasement. So the book of Numbers recounts the itinerary of the Israelites throughout the 40 years of their wanderings and encampments around the sacred tabernacle. The tabernacle always moves in the center of the tribes, and they're positioned in certain specific positions around the tabernacle as they move. They stay at Sinai for a year, I believe, in the text before they begin their movement. And Numbers contains some law and much narrative material. The material tells of God's provision for the people in the desert, but it also tells of the Israelites' constant complaining and rebellion. The Israelites rebel against Moses and God, and they long for Egypt. There are several times when God threatens to exterminate them, but Moses manages to dissuade him. In Numbers 14, for example, when the Israelites complain again, God is determined to destroy them, and Moses intervenes, and the intervention leads to a compromise. God swears that none of the adults who witnessed the Exodus, with the exception of Joshua and Caleb, who did not join in the rebellion, but none of the adults who witnessed the Exodus would see the fulfillment of God's salvation and enter the promised land. This means the Israelites will have to wander for 40 years in the desert until all of those who left Egypt as adults pass away, leaving a new generation that hasn't really tasted slavery to enter the land and form a new nation. The book of Numbers, I think, is most remarkable for the relationship that it describes between Moses and God. I love reading these particular stories and just hearing the dialogue between them and imagining it, because the two of them alternate in losing patience with the Israelites and wishing to throw them over. But each time the one convinces the other to be forbearing. The relationship between Moses and God is a very intimate one, very much like a husband and wife who are sort of working together as partners in parenting a difficult child. But they're trying to prepare, they're partners in the preparation of Israel for their new life, readying Israel for life in God's land as a nation, as a people. I'm going to just give you two examples of the way Moses and God act as a check upon each other. The first excerpt is from Numbers 14, and it shows Moses' ability to placate the wrath of God. Now in this story, the Israelites express great fear. They've just heard a report from a reconnaissance team that scoped out the land, and they come back and say, oh boy, it looks really bad. And then they think that the chances of conquering the promised land are very, very slim. The whole community broke into loud cries, and the people wept that night. All the Israelites railed against Moses and Aaron. If only we had died in the land of Egypt, the whole community shouted at them. Or if only we might die in this wilderness. Why is the Lord taking us to that land to fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be carried off. It would be better for us to go back to Egypt. And they said to one another, let's head back for Egypt. The presence of the Lord appeared in the tent of meeting to all the Israelites. And the Lord said to Moses, how long will this people spurn me? How long will they have no faith in me, despite all the signs that I've performed in their midst? I will strike them with pestilence and disown them, and I will make of you a nation far more numerous than they. But Moses said to the Lord, when the Egyptians, from whose midst you brought up this people in your might, hear the news, they will tell it to the inhabitants of that land. If then you slay this people to a man, the nations who have heard your fame will say, well, it must be because the Lord was powerless to bring the people into the land he had promised them on oath, that he slaughtered them in the wilderness. Therefore, I pray, let my Lord's forbearance be abounding in kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgression. Pardon, I pray, the iniquity of this people, according to your great kindness, as you have forgiven this people ever since Egypt. And the Lord said, I pardon as you have asked. So note God's offer to start all over again with Moses. This is a pattern with this God. Gets upset, a flood wipes him out. Let's start again. Still not too good. Let's choose one person, Abraham, see how that goes. They're disappointed. Let's go with Moses. So this is a bit of a pattern. But Moses refuses to accept the offer. And instead he defends the Israelites and he averts their destruction. He appeals primarily to God's vanity. What will the neighbors think if you destroy them? They'll think you couldn't fulfill your promise. They'll think you're not the universal God of history. But the roles are reversed in the following passage, and this is where the text blows hot and cold. In fact, there's a rabbinic image, there's a rabbinic tradition that talks about this period of time and has God and Moses talking, and God says, listen, between the two of us, whenever I blow hot, you blow cold. Or when I pour hot water, you pour cold. And when you pour hot, I'll pour cold. And together we'll muddle through and get through here, and the Israelites won't be wiped out. But in this next passage, which is in Numbers 11, Moses is the one who's impatient with the Israelites' constant complaints and lack of faith, and he's ready to throw in the towel. I'll just read this last passage. The riffraff in their midst felt a gluttonous craving. And then the Israelites wept and said, oh, if only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish that we used to eat free in Egypt. Okay, we were slaves, but the food was free. I just love that line. We used to eat this fish free in Egypt. The cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. Now our gullets are shriveled. There's nothing at all, nothing but this manna to look at. Moses heard the people weeping, every clan apart, each person at the entrance of his tent. And the Lord was very angry, and Moses was distressed. And Moses said to the Lord, why have you dealt ill with your servant, me? Why have I not enjoyed your favor, that you have laid the burden of all this people on me? Did I conceive all this people? Did I bear them, that you should say to me, carry them in your bosom as a nurse carries an infant, to the land that you have promised on oath to their fathers? Where am I to get meat to give to all this people, when they whine before me and say, give us meat to eat? I cannot carry all this people by myself. It is too much for me. If you would deal thus with me, kill me rather, I beg you, and let me see no more of my wretchedness. And then the Lord said to Moses, gather for me 70 of Israel's elders, of whom you have experience as elders and officers of the people, and bring them to the tent of meeting, and let them take their place there with you. And I will come down and speak with you there, and I will draw upon the spirit that is on you, and put it upon them. And they shall share the burden of the people with you, and you shall not bear it alone. So again, hot and cold. And in many ways, Moses sets the paradigm for the classical prophet. He performs this double duty. He chastises and upbraids the Israelites for their rebellion and failures, right? When he's turning and facing the people, he's on their case. But at the same time, he consoles the people when they fear they've driven God away irreparably. And when he turns to face God, he defends the people before God. He pleads for mercy when they do in fact deserve punishment, and he knows they deserve punishment. He even says as much, but please have mercy. At times, he expresses his frustration with the difficulty of his task and resentment that it's been assigned to him. But we'll consider the character and the role of Moses in much greater detail when we reach the book of Deuteronomy,